following presentation is brought to you by the Alberta Podcast Network. Welcome to the Northern Nerdcast, the podcast that showcases the geeky, nerdy people, groups, and events in and around the city of Edmonton. Northern Nerdcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Visit their website at albertapodcastnetwork.com. If you like the show, we invite you to share it on all of your social media platforms and help grow our community of geeky, nerdy people, groups, and events in and around the city of Edmonton. Would you like to be a contributor to the show? For more information, visit our website at northernnerdnetwork.com. And now, here's the host of the show, Dan Chessel.
All right, so I want to welcome everyone back to another edition of the Northern Nerdcast. My name is Dan Chessel, and of course, as always, we have none other than the one and only Chelsea Thompson joining us again tonight. I need a cheer track there. And also on tonight's show, we have Lindsay. I don't know how to say your last name.
Stamhuis.
Sorry.
It's Stamhuis.
Stamhuis?
Yep.
Stamhuis. And sorry. I'm all over the place here. What am I doing? Sorry. And Aidan, sorry.
Yeah.
Is it Hales?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we are super excited to have you guys on here. You guys are a part of a podcast called Bickering Peaks. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. But we like to start off each episode of the Nerdcast by really getting to the soul of each person that we have here on the Nerdcast by asking each one of our guests what they have on their nerd shelf. So I'm going to ask Lindsay here. Lindsay, what do you have on your nerd shelf?
I have my collection of Twin Peaks Funko Pops that were part of like a all year long present that I kind of gave to myself. So we have the full collection now, finally, as of Christmas. Nice. And I think, my favorites, I think, would have to be my Coop and Laura Black Lodge version of them. I don't know if you can see them here, but Coop's got his cup and Laura's in her meanwhile pose, and
they're creepy.
They're kind of awesome. Like we have them on our shelf when people come in the door, because there's no doubt whatsoever when people come to our house that we are Twin Peaks fans, because they see, the giant and the log lady, just staring at them when they take their coats off. So yeah, that's on my nerd shelf anyway.
Yeah. Nice.
That is awesome. Just for the pure fact that you have the whole set,
the whole collection. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a collection if it's not complete.
Yeah, you need the whole thing. Obviously.
That is it's dedication. That's what it is. True fandom right there.
For sure.
That's awesome. How about you, Aidan? What do you keep on your geek shelf?
Lindsay's kind of the collector of the two of us, so I let her dominate most of the shelf space as it is. But I do have a few small odds and ends here and there. Mostly Star Trek stuff. It's a lot of like the Christmas ornaments that like talk to you. Nice. I just leave those out most of the year. Yeah. So that's kind of the highlight of my shelf. I mean,
a lot of the times when you get those Christmas ornaments, they are so nice. They're a really great little figurine.
Yeah.
And you're like, why do I have to put this away at Christmas time?
And you just keep them out on display.
We don't. Yeah, we just don't anymore. I mean, they go on the tree when the tree's up, but otherwise they're out there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
People come in, they're like, why does Picard have a Santa hat on?
Why doesn't?
Why
doesn't
he? Yeah, exactly.
We're getting really right to the heart of things, right?
Definitely.
All right. So Chelsea.
Yes.
We missed you last week.
Yeah. I fell victim to spotty internet services. As happens more frequently to me than I would like. But I'm on the I'm on the research warpath looking for a new internet provider right now, so hopefully that will change. But this evening, it looks like the problem has been temporarily resolved for this week anyway, so
That's good.
internet is back up and running.
Fingers
But
crossed.
yeah, I missed last week, and I was sad that I missed it. But the internet gods were not smiling upon me.
Yeah, it was really sad. I really did miss you. You did miss out on a good show.
Yeah,
so-
you were chatting all about D&D, and I missed it, and I'm so sad. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. But in the
so-
meantime, I managed to catch an amazing cold, so I'm sorry. There's that, you know.
Aw.
Now I sound just like super sexy just for you guys. I did
Isn't
it
that-
all for you guys.
That
It's all
gravelly
for the
voice.
listeners,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. The lengths that we go through to go for the listeners, we go that
Yeah.
extra mile
Yeah.
by catching colds.
Mhm.
Even so, Chelsea, we managed to do it wasn't a complete loss because I actually did get to talk to you yesterday.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a fun. So Dan has had the privilege of being a guest on a few other podcasts, which is kind of a pleasant byproduct of doing our own show. You know, we get to meet so many awesome people and make so many great connections that, they're like, oh, well, why don't you come on our show and be a guest? And it's often far easier for Dan to do that because he actually lives in town and not far away. But yesterday we got to go on the Hero Protocol podcast. Shane Mayo, who was a guest on our podcast a couple weeks ago, turned around and said, hey, why don't you guys come on and chat with me for a bit? And so it was a sort of similar setup where we could, video call in via Skype. So I got to be a part of it, which was really fun. And it was kind of neat to be sort of on the opposite side of the table and be a guest. That was lots of fun.
I know it's a little bit stranger to be the guy that's being asked the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I feel like I did a lot of talking. I feel like I talked a lot.
It was great. It was good. I would suggest everyone out there, if you're listening to this show, go find that show because it was a good episode. It was definitely well worth checking it out.
Well, and just in general, I mean, everybody who listens to us are big geeks and nerds, and that's all the kind of stuff that Shane talks about too. So if you want to add another geeky podcast to your list, go check it out.
Mm-hmm. So did you get up to anything else there, Chels?
A friend of mine came over this evening for some dinner. We ordered some Indian food and we were streaming the Oscars. And so, after we're done, we're going to go check out the rest of it. But yeah, it's the first. I haven't had
now watching the Oscars as well.
I haven't had real television in ages. And so this is the first time that I've sat down and watched the Oscars in a really long time. But it's kind of fun. It's always nice to do it with friends. So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you, Dan? How was your week? What did you get up to?
My week was pretty good. I managed to I got some more board gaming in on Friday night there. We got another round of Scythe in, which is awesome. I'm really liking that game now.
And then Saturday night, you were headed out for a game night with the gentlemen. How did that
go?
go?
What did
you guys play? What did you get up to?
I managed to go out with Marcus and Ben
Yendall, right? He was there.
Yeah, Ben Yendall from Tales of the Hiding Way, and so we managed to. We went out to a Board and Brew Cafe. And we played a game of Fiasco, and that was really interesting. I've never really played that game before. I've always wanted to give it a shot, but this one was a lot different than most RPGs I've played before. Where this one you have some random elements that are you have random connections, and you're you try to build a bit of a world with these dice. And then from then on, it's just a matter of you and the people around you building a story all together. And I could tell you that we've come up with some of the weirdest, craziest story I've ever heard in my entire life. It was. I would have to say it was a thing of beauty. I really wish I could have actually recorded it, because the stuff that we were getting up to last night was it was quite interesting. And we did manage to stay up quite late last night, later than I normally get to. But it was a great time. I love hanging out with those guys. Ben is fantastic. And yeah, another podcast to go check out is Heroes of the Hiding Way and Tales of the Hiding Way. If you like RPGs, podcasts, and Star Wars.
Yep.
All those things. So that's that. And this afternoon, I managed to finally get a chance to go and see Black Panther.
Nice.
Trina went to go yesterday to go see it, and I got to go today. And that's how that works. Because we don't get to see movies at the same time anymore. That's what happens when you have kids. You have to break it up.
You need to find a better babysitter.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem is we send them off with babysitters a lot for other reasons. And so, yeah, we managed to. She managed to go out yesterday with Wendy.
It's tag team movie viewing.
Yeah, she went out with Wendy. I took Neil this afternoon, so it was fun. It was a good time. I got to hang out with Neo, so I mean, anytime I get to hang out with the boy, it's always a good time. And that is pretty much it. Do you have anything else before we move along here, Chelsea?
No, a pretty uneventful week. Just trying to recuperate from my cold and taking all the drugs.
Take them all.
All of them. Any ones that I can get my hands on.
All right. Well, that sounds awesome. Let's go into our first little break here and talk a little bit about the Edmonton Community Foundation.
Mm-hmm. So the Northern Nerdcast is brought to you in part by the Edmonton Community Foundation. The Edmonton Community Foundation is a great way to put your money to work directly for charities that matter to you. The Edmonton Community Foundation will work with you to set up an endowment fund in your name. From that fund, they take any of the money you donated, plus any of the money earned by the fund, and donate it to the charity of your choice. Now, you don't have to be rich to set up a fund. ECF will work with you to put any donation amount you want to work in your fund. You can also get a group of people together and set up a fund together to give to a charity as a collective. The ECF also has an awesome podcast, the Well Endowed Podcast. That's one of our fellow members on the Alberta Podcast Network. This month, the Well Endowed Podcast is celebrating International Women's Day, chatting with the Women Building Futures organization, as well as Bev Esslinger and Sarah Hamilton, Edmonton City Councillors, to talk about women in politics. So be sure to check it out.
FYI, I actually know Bev personally.
Nice.
She's absolutely a fantastic lady, and definitely well worth checking this one out.
Worth tuning into.
Mm-hmm.
So to learn more about the Edmonton Community Foundation, check out their website ecfoundation.org. Or to listen to the Well Endowed Podcast, head on over to thewellendowedpodcast.com or find them on your podcast player of choice.
Thank you very much, Chelsea.
You're welcome.
All right. So, like I said, we have our very special guests from the podcast Bickering Peaks joining us today. This is Lindsay and Aidan joining us today. And we're so excited to have you guys here with us.
It's always a treat to fellow podcasters because it's like, oh, yay, kindred spirits.
Yay.
Yes, so we're super excited to have you guys here today. And so let's just start off by just kind of asking you guys what possessed you guys in the first place to even start a podcast?
Well, I think we do our podcast about Twin Peaks. That's what it kind of started as. And in the run up to the show being brought back last summer, we were listening to a bunch of other podcasts that are out there. And, you know, these guys are so super smart and they're like way out of our league, but we wanted to have conversations with them. And we thought we could just have our own podcast, and we were talking about it anyway. So we just thought, why don't we do it? And then I think over a weekend, we taught ourselves how to, what to do and how to do it. And it just, we've been doing it for like 18 months now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. The thing about I find with shows like Twin Peaks, I think Lost would be another one of those kind of shows that really lends well to having a podcast along with the actual show itself, where there's so much happening in a show like that you can really build off of that, right?
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you guys, when you guys are coming up with the show, are you guys just talking about the episode that was, or like how do you work out your episodes?
You wanna?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends. When the show was first, we recapped the first 2 seasons that aired 7 years ago. We just did those episode by episode, and it was really just kind of a recap of the individual episode, and we talked about some of the themes that would come up and some analysis of various aspects of the show. And then when the new season started last May, it was slightly different because we really had no idea what was going on. We didn't have the perspective of having seen everything, 3 or 4 times. And the show itself is obscure and dense and kind of confusing to watch. So it was a lot of more speculation. It's like, what do you think this means? Oh my God, this could be so cool. And what if this happens and all that stuff. So it was more, it kind of lent itself more to that kind of structure. And then lately we've been going into David Lynch and Mark Frost's back catalog for the last couple of weeks. And so there it's slightly different because they're usually longer pieces. It's a film or a long running TV series that they contribute to. And we're kind of summing it up in one short episode.
Maybe trying to see if there was any influence from their past into Twin Peaks. How did that come into play when they were working on Twin Peaks? So yeah, I mean, it kind of differs depending on what we're talking about, but it was definitely a challenge doing this past summer because, the episode would air on Sundays and we would have the podcast out on Tuesdays and we'd have to sound somewhat coherent. I don't know how many of the things we had answers for, but, it was nice to be part of that conversation that people were having. There was so much going on Twitter and Facebook and, Instagram and all those places that fans congregate these days. So it was neat to be part of that. So
yeah, that's sort of the main thing is that you got to be a fan first, right? You guys really seem to be super into the fact that you guys watched all the previous iteration of Twin Peaks, and now you're coming into the 2017 version as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about because from someone who doesn't watch the show, why would anyone be possessed to even to start up with this show? What should I start with this, or should I go back into the older episodes, or
Yeah, we kind of have to.
Yeah.
It's a fairly linear story actually. So there was the first season, which was only 9 episodes in 1990, and then the second season was a full network 22 episode run. The second season wasn't very good, so it lost a lot of viewers, and that's why the show got canceled after the second season. And then there was a movie that came out 2 years later, but it was a prequel. And then there was a 25-year wait, and then that's what we got. But you kind of have to watch them in the order they were released to really get a really good grasp of even the latest season on its own, because it kind of picks up right where the movie and the second season ended. But it's
25 years later.
25 years later, but it still picks up those same story threads as if they just happened. So, yeah, you definitely kind of have to go through it in the straight order, I think. Do you agree, Lindsay?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely would agree. Okay. It would be really challenging to jump into the 2017 version unless you are already a fan of David Lynch and his works, because then it might make sense. But if you've never seen anything by David Lynch or anything, definitely start with the original series.
So what you're saying is just go back, just don't even try.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
I mean, you can. It might be a fun experiment. You can come on our podcast after that and let us know how that went for you.
Just start halfway through the
part 8 and just watch it, and then come and tell us what you thought.
Yeah. When's the next episode? We'll start from that one. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm always a sucker for the origin stories.
Mm.
So, you know, I always like to know how these loves and fandoms sort of hook into your personality. And so when did you first come across Twin Peaks? When did it become like apparent to you that you were like, yeah, this is totally my jam? You know, like how did all of that sort of talk me through that process?
Okay, so it's kind of strange, and please don't make any judgments about my parents and their abilities to parent. They are wonderful parents, but they watched Twin Peaks when I was 5, and I watched Twin Peaks when I was 5 because
With
of
them,
that.
yeah.
And not with them. They didn't really know that I was watching it with them, but I only saw a few episodes, and it scared the crap out of me so badly that like even I don't know if you remember it was like 92, 93, a film, the Flintstones movie came out, and Kyle MacLachlan is in it.
Yes.
And he, to me, in my mind, he was in that scary show. So I couldn't watch the Flintstones movie because it scared me so much that he was in it. So it had this like, I was just so terrified. I just avoided everything to do with Twin Peaks and David Lynch until I was about 25 myself. And then I got into it. So that was about 8 years ago. And I watched it summer of 2010 and then got Aidan into it. And that was really the summer, like I realized that the show wasn't scary, or it was, but in a way that I could handle. And then it was just falling into that mystery and getting wrapped up in this. I mean, the ending of the second season was such a cliffhanger. And then not knowing that it was going to come back, you're just kind of, you know, ensconced in this mystery and wondering what would have happened. And then finding out it was going to come back, that kind of kickstarted it all over again. So yeah, it was kind of a short period of time from 2010 to now that I've really been into it.
Yeah.
And you're far less, Aidan,
yeah, Lindsay is, to be fair, Lindsay is the super nerd of Twin Peaks in this household. But she did drag me along, and I was not kicking and screaming because I thoroughly enjoy Twin Peaks too. I'm just not as dedicated as Lindsay. But I mean, so for me, like the first time we watched it, I was just like, oh, this show's awesome. And then I watched season 2, which I mentioned wasn't as good, and I was like, oh, this show sucks. And then you get to the end of season 2 and it's a really great cliffhanger, and you're like, oh, I wish they made more. How could they end it like this? And yeah, and it was my entry point for David Lynch movies, which is kind of like a little subgenre. He's a real surrealist, absurd kind of filmmaker, and I've loved watching, like we've kind of gone through and watched all of his movies now, and
Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire.
Yeah, Dune.
Yeah.
Dune, which is not good. So we watched all of those.
Spice.
What the spice? You don't like
Spice
Dune?
Come on now,
He
that's a
hates
classic.
Dune.
Speaking
He
of
hates
another,
it.
you know,
The Cold
the actor
Stripes.
whose name you just mentioned, that Kyle
yeah.
MacLachlan. Yes. Speaking of another outing,
Yes.
Yeah, he was in that. I mean, he's got like, and that's the thing, like David Lynch has a very specific feel, so it's easy to just, if you like his movies, you can just jump into any of them really, and you'll see the same actors, and he has the same kind of music cues all the time, and the same visuals,
Similar
and
themes
stuff,
and stuff that come up.
So it was a great. I appreciate that very much, Lindsay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
so now after a 20-year fear of Twin Peaks, what was it that emboldened you or gave you the courage to like dare to go back and try and wade your way through it again?
Well, it was actually my dad who bought the gold box, the definitive gold box DVD set that came out, I don't know,
It was like
10 years ago, 15 years ago. And he bought it for my mom, who hated Twin Peaks. So it was kind of like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer buys the bowling ball for Marge. That's exactly what my dad did, is he bought this box set for my mom. And I was over there one day and he showed me the first part of the second episode or second season premiere. And I was just like, okay, this isn't what I thought it was, so I have to watch it. And I just borrowed the DVDs and watched them in like a week, I think, to watch all 29 episodes. So, yeah. It just happened. It was, I remember we were in the living rooms together when they were showing it. I'm like, there's just a waiter talking to a guy who's been shot, and he's like, oh, your milk's going to get cold. I'm like, what the heck is going on in this show? Like, and I'm like, this is so intriguing. I need to find out how this happened. So it gives a little insight into our marriage, I think, too, just how we approach things from very different points of view.
And they're just like, oh, but
yeah.
Nice. So conquering your fear was totally worth it.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And now, I mean, like, I have this podcast with Aidan, and I'm the executive editor of a Twin Peaks website, and we like go into like theories and analysis every week, and it's great. So, I mean, this totally changed my life. So I guess thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad, for your really bad, poor, like,
yeah,
gift
exactly. For sure.
That's so, I mean, when you talk about like how a love of something like grows like that, like it's one of those moments where you're like, wait a minute, I got to find out what is going on here, like, and not just to the point of, okay, I could just sit back and no, you got to like get right into it, right? And that's the thing I think with a lot of David Lynch's stuff is that you got to go either you're in for the ride or you're just you'll just jump right off.
Exactly. And I think that's why there's so many people in the not just the Twin Peaks community, but like Lynch fans who are like super fans, and they have every book, every article that's ever been written about one of his works or Twin Peaks or anything. They collect everything, and they are so well versed in this stuff. It's because it kind of, that community lends itself to that kind of fandom, I think, like that level of fandom. So it's an easy place to kind of slip into.
So let me ask you guys a little quick question about sort of the fans of the show then. Like how do you guys, like, do you guys get a lot of comments? Do you guys get a lot of people talking with you? Is there a lot of other people that are, like you're saying that you're part of a website, but you also do the podcast and all this other stuff. So let me just ask you, like, what are the fans of the show like?
They're all over the place. I think there's young fans. There's fans who are fans from the beginning, fans who've been fans of David Lynch since Eraserhead, right? So they're all kind of together, and it's all online, really. I think in the early days there were people who, like John Thorne and Craig Miller, who did the Wrapped in Plastic magazine. It was like an actual physical hard copy magazine that they would make, and that was more like mailing lists and early internet, chat rooms and stuff like that these things were conducted in. But now it's so easy. I mean, everybody has Twitter. So yeah, we do get a lot of feedback and stuff, lots of conversations going on Twitter, on Facebook, and then on the website that we run when we, in the comment section and stuff, everybody has an idea, everybody has theories. And that's the really great thing too, is that it's very egalitarian almost. Like, there are people who have been fans for a really, really long time. And of course they're like the experts, they're the ones that you go to. But at the same time, the people who have just become fans last summer, they have wonderful ideas, and they come in and they talk to you, and the older fans talk right back, and you get this wonderful dialogue between people who have been fans for 30 years and fans who have been fans for 30 minutes. It's awesome. It's really cool. Like, it's one of the coolest fan communities I've ever been part of. So I don't know about you, Aidan, but
everything you said. I mean, it's just it's interesting because the show Twin Peaks is fairly accessible, and it's easy to draw a lot of people in. But the new season and David Lynch movies generally are a little more, they're not for everyone, like you said. So, but the people who do love them, they're rabid for it. They're ravenous. They just want to get it not as much as they can. So yeah, they're all over the place, and they're really willing to engage. And like even just some of the Facebook groups, there's a couple meme pages that are just hilarious. Like, they're just, people love talking about the show and making jokes and finding new ways of exploring the fandom
and engaging with it too.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the thing, like, because of the way I would say David Lynch works, that nobody can really know what kind of goes on in his head. Like, so it doesn't matter if you've been a fan for forever or you've been a fan for just a little bit. You guys are all like, everybody's opinion is valid, right? Yeah. And that's the kind of the kicker, is that when you get those kind of people, like, they can just jump right into this. Oh, this is what I think this means, or this is what I think this means, right? So it's great that you guys can be able to be a part of that. That sounds awesome.
For sure.
So yeah, and like you were saying, I think that also is what lends itself so well because of sort of the wild craziness that is David Lynch. You really don't know what he's going to pull out next. Lends itself so well to that sort of wild theorizing and speculation. And
Yes.
I think this might happen, or this could happen, or so in all of your time watching and combing through the shows and getting to know his other materials to sort of get a better bead on, you know, what might be coming down the pike. I guess, what are some of your favorite, I guess, do you have any like wild or crazy theories that you personally formed about the show that were A, confirmed as you watched the show along, or B, that were like completely busted and completely turned on their head and turned out to be something completely different?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question.
We should go through our old episodes because I mean, we made some pretty crazy theories along the way when we were doing the most recent season, because we were just like, yeah, we just came up with all sorts of stuff. And I mean, the show kind of like it did that a lot. It like led you in one direction and then it would just like totally blindside you and stuff. So yeah, it was fun to do that, but I'm trying to think if there was
one of the theories I know that I kind of hooked into early on in this latest season when it started, was that there was a character who was introduced, and I just said, oh, I know for sure that is Audrey Horne's son, and Audrey Horne was a fan favorite of the original series, and she hadn't appeared yet in the show, so everybody was kind of wondering if she survived the cliffhanger, her cliffhanger ending at the end of season 2. So seeing this character, I'm like, it has to be Audrey Horne's son, and she had this son by Dale Cooper's doppelganger, which it gets into a whole, I mean, I'm not going to sit and explain the whole thing because we don't have enough time, but everybody was like, this is a crazy theory. There's no way that could happen. And it was confirmed very late in the season. So it wasn't something you wanted to confirm because the way that happened was like, there was sexual assault involved. It was awful, but it was just one of those things that, you know, I guess I kind of read the room well, or read the scene well anyway. But I guess the ending of this season has left it really wide open in terms of where it could go and what happened and what's going to happen next, right? So there are a lot of theories about that. And I don't think any of them maybe they'll never be borne out. Maybe we'll never know what it is. But was it all a dream? Was the whole season a dream? Did Dale Cooper go back in time and mess up the timeline and create multiple universes? There's just so many things that the show has opened up. And it
didn't resolve any of them.
It's
really, they're all true until we hear otherwise. So we're fine with that, because then my theory's right and Lindsay's is less right, but you know, acceptable.
Mine's right. He's wrong.
Schrodinger's Twin Peaks.
Yes, exactly.
Till we get season 4, everybody's right. So that's fine.
That's awesome.
Nice. Pardon me.
Bless you.
Sorry, I was I'm off
chatting with Aaron.
No, I have yes, if you are there, you guys can talk to us as well via our chat function as well. So if you're out there, you could do that. But coming back to you guys, where are like? Sorry, I have a few of my notes here. So, where are like the best places that people can like either find you guys or like just sort of get in touch with? Like, how can they join your guys' conversations?
Sure. So we have a Twitter at Bickering Peaks, and we're on there quite regularly, as well as on Facebook, facebook.com/Bickering Peaks. And then we have our podcast, which is on SoundCloud. So soundcloud.com/Bickering Peaks, Bickering-Peaks, I think. So, and yeah, I mean, all 3 of those places are places you can hear us, you can interact with us, you follow us. We're constantly on there, involved in the conversations that are kind of naturally happening on Twin Peaks Twitter, which is even still a pretty active place. So, and now we're in the period of time where every year on the anniversary of the day that the original series happened, there's, you know, Twin Peaks Day started on February 24th. And now there are people who like every day they're like, this happened, you know, X number of years ago, and this happened X number of years ago. So that's happening right now on Twitter, which is really fun. It's kind of nerdy and awesome. So definitely come and join in those conversations if you're a Twin Peaks fan. And even if you're not, we're nice people. We don't bite.
This is true. I have yet to be bitten by them. Awesome. All right. So we're going to take another quick little break here. We'll come back and we'll chat a little bit more, and we'll talk about some of the events that are happening in and around the city of Edmonton. Just stay tuned. Okay, so the Northern Nerdcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. And if you guys all go right now on over to albertapodcastnetwork.com, you will find a list of amazing Alberta-made podcasts. We are like the podcast community here, not just in Edmonton, but in all over the Alberta, all over the province. It's just been exploding. And so if you really want to just support a lot of local awesome podcasts, go on over to albertapodcastnetwork.com and check out Girl Tries Life. Victoria Smith interviews inspiring women to show there are many different ways to live an incredible life. Hear tangible ways to achieve your goals and dreams. And that's just one of so many awesome podcasts that are out there. They just keep adding more to this list. So I highly encourage everyone out there to go and check that out. And that is albertapodcastnetwork.com. So that is not my volume button. All right. So we have a few events. I would like to point out that if you guys out there are listening to the show, if you guys have an event that you would like to be featured on our show, please send us that information, and we will definitely plug it here on this show here. So the first one I'd like to mention right now is on March 8th. We have D&D 101 happening over at Mission Fun and Games, and this is a chance to, if you're just thinking about getting into playing D&D, this is the chance to go and do that. D&D 101 is that moment where you get to learn. They'll help you along, and it's a great place to go. So that's over in St. Albert. So if you're in the area, go and check that out. And on March 11th, we have the TEDx Alberta 2018 conference. And this is happening at the ATB Financial Arts Barn. Do you guys ever listen to any TED Talks or anything?
Yeah,
usually, yeah.
It's been a little while since I've listened to a recent one. I go back to my favorites from years ago. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So TED, Technology, Entertainment, and Design. It's I like, for myself, I always love to go and listen to TED Talks. They're really inspiring. There's so many of them out there, and they're just awesome. The tickets are apparently sold out. So sadly, yeah. But you know that it's there now. March 11th, that was happening. March 30th, we have Video Games Live in Edmonton. So if you are into like video game music, yeah, TEDx is the adult version. There is a chance for you guys to go to the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium on March 30th. They have a big, just this big concert of all this awesome video game music over the years, and it's definitely well worth going to check that out. So that is happening March 30th. Moving along, we have April 7th, How to Start a Podcast from Notion to Reality. And this is hosted by, that's right, the Alberta Podcast Network. So if you are interested in starting a podcast, wanting to know what it takes, how it all takes, I'm going to have a link down below that I'd like for everyone to go and use, and that will get you into that event. It's going to be awesome.
Meet other podcasters, find out how it's done. Although almost all of the podcasters fellow podcasters that we meet and have on our show have a very similar story to ours. It was just kind of like, well, we just kind of wanted to do it. So we just kind of did it. And it happened.
Yeah.
And that's like every podcaster we have on the show sounds exactly like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So go to this event and you can learn how to do it better than we did.
Yes. And it's either that or we just wanted to record our drunken chats. That's
yeah.
For posterity.
Those are the ones that we always get. We wanted to record our drunken chats, and we just wanted to talk about this, so we just did.
Yeah.
And so, so if you want to learn how to actually like put a podcast together, try to probably do a better job of what I have done with this podcast or with most people, go and check this workshop out. It is definitely checking it out. And that is how to start a podcast from Notion to reality on April 7th. And that is it. That's all the events I have for this week. You guys are awesome. I just want to say, because like I said, I'm not a huge like Twin Peaks fan. I don't really watch it all that much or at all. But like to see other people with other passions, the way you guys have a passion for this is just awesome to see that there's all these different things that are out there, right? And that is awesome. And now I'm gonna end up watching Twin Peaks, by the way.
I hope so. That would be awesome. If you do, like that would and that's the thing. Like we think if we introduce someone to Twin Peaks, that's all we expect is like just watch one episode and you'll be hooked. I promise you will be.
Well, that's my fear is that I already know that I'll be hooked.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I have stayed away first. But from talking to you guys, you're like, this is the greatest. And I'm like, oh, now I have to go and watch that.
So now, before we sign off for the evening, I just want to, our fans and listeners out there and your fans and listeners out there, because now we are in hiatus and the new season is, we don't know when, forthcoming. But fans are ravenous and rabid and always need a fix. Give me my next fix. So tuning into you guys, what can they expect to hear from you guys in the next little while? Aside from you guys, what are some other recommendations you can give them of places that they can maybe get a good fix while they're waiting for the next season to materialize from the ether?
Well, Aidan said it already best. For the next little while, probably the next 6 months or more, we're going to be still working on the broader catalogs of David Lynch and Mark Frost, who are the co-creators of Twin Peaks. So that'll be where we're going. Maybe we'll dive into some of the influences like Alfred Hitchcock, some of the other filmmakers and stuff that have influenced them as well. Other places that you can find information or that you can get your fix. I mean, there are so many other podcasts. Diane Podcast is another fantastic one based in the UK. Counter Esperanto Podcast, who are also kind of on hiatus right now, but they're fantastic. Can't recommend both of those enough.
Yeah, they both do great analysis of like themes and oddities. Like Twin Peaks is a very strange show, so they'll like zero in on an oddity of the show and then like talk about it for like 2 hours and do just like an amazing job of that. It's really great.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say you should check out 25yearslatersite.com, which is my website with my team of editors and writers and everything. We've been doing analysis and we're branching out into other TV shows and films right now. So, I mean, if you are looking for something like Twin Peaks, definitely give us a check or check us out.
And once again, for all the lovely people out there, where can they find you on the web? Where can they find the podcast on the web if they want to go back and listen to previous episodes? All that good stuff. Where can they get at you?
So we're on Twitter at Twitter. Our handle's just at Bickering Peaks. Facebook is facebook.com/Bickering Peaks and soundcloud.com/Bickering-Peaks for the actual episodes.
And we're on iTunes too.
Yeah,
Anywhere you find podcasts, you can find us. So
Awesome.
In the gutter, on the street.
Wherever they go.
Set up an antenna in the ether somewhere. Yeah.
We don't judge on where you find your podcast.
Nope.
That's awesome. All right, so thank you guys so much for coming on to the show today. Like I said, we've had such a great time. I want to thank everybody out there for watching and or listening to this edition of the Nerdcast. I want to say a special thanks to Trina for our special producer, and Chelsea Thompson for being the co-host.
But before we run away, Dan,
what?
Where can our listeners and viewers find?
That'll be on the end.
Okay.
It's on the tag thing.
Oh, that's right. I always forget. We have such fancy intros and outros now.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone out there for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Northern Nerdcast. Northern Nerdcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Check out their website at albertapodcastnetwork.com. For all things geeky and nerdy, including all of our social media platforms, go to northernnerdnetwork.com. Thanks again, and we appreciate your support.